dog. Okay, so that chest, it's not an NPC, so I can't share the same base class, so we just add another cast. And then one of the level props, a tree, well, that should be able to speak also. So these just keep popping up and so on and so forth. So this is a great example of where interfaces can save the day, because they allow us to call the same named function with the same parameters on very different actors, even though they don't implement the same base class. So to do that, let's just put it in. So we're going to add a new blueprint interface to our project, call it BPI_speaker for blueprint interface, create a simple function and called speak. So now we can go to the class settings of the blueprints we want to speak. So the NPC, the tree, the chest, and add the interface there. Then we'll implement the function by right-clicking and select event speak and then add event category. And in our character blueprint, we just get the actor and we just simply call the speak interface function. The best thing about this is that if that actor doesn't implement this speak function, then just nothing will happen. That's actually different from how C++, like in code, how interfaces work, because if it doesn't implement the interface, and if it doesn't implement function, you can error in blueprint, it's like whatever. You can have a blueprint interface, you can call it any actor in the entire map, and the actor can implement the interface, but it doesn't even have to implement the whole function. It's really whatever. If it has it, I'll call it. If not, I just won't do it. So, the best thing about this, okay, like I've been talking a lot about interfaces and how dangerous they are, but I really hope that this I haven't made you scared of using any references because the references are your friends. So don't try to get around using them by having like plain string references or something like that. There's big reasons for that. I'm going to use the references to know which assets to package when you build your project. So unless your asset is a primary asset, like levels are by default, it will just not get packets unless it's somehow referenced. It also keeps the size map honest, you know exactly what you're getting with the size map. Also the size map, it uses the asset registry to see what references what, so you need, also you need the correct size map to help debug what's loading and when. And lastly, it also checks, like, if you're trying to delete an asset, it will check if anything is referencing that asset, so if anything uses the asset, it's fine to delete. And then when you move the asset, if anything references that asset, it will create a redirect for you. Okay, so this is actually an old slide. There used to be only one way of calling open level in Unreal 4. You'd have to put in the level name string, which is horrible, because Unreal doesn't have like a list of all levels. It would just treat it as assets. So first it will try to search for the asset. So if you put in the full level name, it would be quite fast. But if you only put in the short level name, it would have to search the entire registry for that one asset. And the bigger your game gets, the slower it is. It should just be instant. So actually, in Unreal 5, we have this open level by object reference. So then you can just put the level directly in there and it's super fast. And you get a reference and everything that comes with that. So, yeah. So those references, like I said, was 1/3 of the presentation. It's really important. Get them correctly early on. We actually kept references kind of mostly in check in Returnal. We had some reference hell, but it meant that we are actually able to load into the game from a cold start after the logos in 5 seconds or less. There is no main menu in Returnal. There's the loading screen. You just boot the game and you go into the game itself. And then if you go to the menu, you press the start while you're in the game. So even if you're making games, I really want to make you think, like, try to get out of the way of the user. Why do you need, like, sometimes I see games and they're doing loading, and then it goes into the main menu. And I'm like, wow, you needed to load to get into the main menu? And then I click, okay, there's only one button I'm going to click now because I'm playing the game, so I want to continue. And then it fades up, and then it's loading again. I was like, what did you think I was going to press? I was probably like 90%, 95, 99% going to press continue. Why didn't you just start loading in the background? So don't be that developer that annoys me that much. If you are able to get into the game faster than you're able to get into the main menu, just make the game your main menu. But now let's move on to lessons learned on practical development. So ticks, they don't scale well. Having too many things taking each frame can hit your frame rate hard. It's just a simple matter of you're doing too much. So you need to ask yourself, does this code I'm writing really have to run 60 frames per second? Is that a video or a picture? Often it doesn't. So consider ticking less often by increasing the tick interval or even turning off ticking when the object is far away or not invisible. And also you need to fail faster. That means you can fix things faster. Get a continuous integration server set up and compile the game every time someone commits something. Don't cook the content during this build because they also need to be fast. Keep them as a non-Unity build, which it's not Unity build. It's a weird thing to call something a Unity build in Unreal, but it basically means that it combines many C++ files into one. So you can keep them as non-Unity builds to also catch missing header includes because they can sometimes be forgotten but still work locally on Unity builds. Also compile the blueprints, run the editor from the command line with the run compile all blueprints command, which will help you find blueprint errors. And you shouldn't only fail faster, you should fail better. I actually recommend against doing too defensive programming, like adding is valid and if this is null everywhere. Because if you expect that some variable should not be a null pointer, then getting a null pointer usually means something is wrong. If you just allow it, then you're adding undefined behavior. So, like for example, how will your game run if your function really needs some reference, but it didn't get it, and your game just added an if, and if it doesn't get it, then just do nothing. So, I don't like that. I would say just have it crash. Yeah. So you'll get a stack trace, you'll be able to actually fix it instead of getting super obscure bugs that can take forever to find because find the cost for. So you can do that with a check function, is equal cost or ensure or whatever. So it won't crash on production builds in case you don't catch it. But sometimes you don't want to crash, but still get a breakpoint that warning message at a time somewhere when connected to Language Studio, like within the editor. In those cases, sure, add an old check, but wrap it in an ensure so that if a programmer is running it from Visual Studio, they'll still catch it, or even have automatic error reporting. I did this presentation for a company at an internal conference they had. And I had a lead programmer, this is like a major AAA developer. And the lead developer came up to me and said, I actually disagree with you. And I was like, oh, how so? And he said, I disagree. I think that if something unexpected happens, I think the editor should still run because we don't want to make the tools unusable by having them always crashing. And then I told him, well, I kind of expect you to have a pipeline up and running that makes it so that you would be able to catch it and fix it. Because I hadn't mentioned automatic error reporting when I did the slide last time. So when we were making returnable, I made it so that whenever the editor crashed, it would, oh, sorry, but I'm embarrassing. Hope you're going to sign it also. I hooked up the editor that everyone was using to develop the game to Sentry, the crash reporting service, and it was super cheap. So that basically whenever the editor crashed, we would, like a Slack notification would come up immediately and we get the crash dump and everything, so normal crash, so we could catch it fast, fix it fast, get a new editor up and running immediately. And the reason he didn't think that it was a good idea was because they were a really big studio. I don't think that was much still, because we were already at like 150, although their studio had 1,400. Anyways, okay, he might be right. So it depends on, just like, decide whether it's right for you or not. I'm willing to fight with this, like, I'm willing to have a rational discussion about it. Yeah, was there anything else about it? Oh yeah. First time I made this presentation, apparently, I don't remember doing this. What I did is that at some point after it, I went and opened the presentation, and in the speaker notes, I added a little song about this. And I'm going to sing that song for you tonight. And it's a Christmas song. It's only one verse, which is nice because, you know, it's almost December. So it goes like this. I love karaoke, by the way. If you're getting undefined behavior and you're looking for a savior, then instead of using is valid, let it crash, let it crash, let it crash. Thank you, thank you. some songs out of something, it's just automatically true. Okay. Before I continue, I also want to just point out, do it afterwards, so you're not doing it now. I left some swag on the bar table. There's some Unreal Engine pins there. I don't think it's enough for all of us, so get one while you still can. I also left some stickers there. It's Unreal Engine Epic Game sticker. I think I see one left. So yeah, anyways, also get to know your profiling tools. Unreal Engine has built-in CPU and GPU profilers that you should know how to use. Actually, there's a presentation about it that I'm doing in Gamedev, so if you're coming to Gamedev, come look at my talk, or just go to my website because the talk is already there, it's on the top. And also, RenderDog, it's free and plugs in very easily into Unreal. It's good for profiling with abstract frame. When I made this, I said the built-in profiler is only all right, but since Unreal Engine 5, it's excellent. So you have that, but you also have sampling profilers, which are good. They're like native to whatever platform you're using. They capture everything also. So my favorite ones are very lazy because it's very simple and free. It's very good for seeing what's happening on a single thread. It doesn't show multi-threading really well. It's very simple. So usually when the editor freezes for someone, I'll usually tell them like, hey, just run that quick, very lazy capture, and for like 2 seconds, and then send it to me. I will see the stack where it's frozen at. So if they don't have any other tools, they can just do that. And Super Lumino is by far my favorite sampling profiler. So you should get that one. It's very cheap. It's like, well, for a company at least. And we used it extensively at Housemarque. It's fantastic. It has great multi-thread profiling. It even shows you what thread another thread is waiting on. But also, importantly, use the target profiler profiling tools. So if you're developing for iOS, use the Xcode profiler. If you're using consoles, use there. And even specific CPUs or graphics cards can sometimes have their own modules. So try to get used to writing your code in modules. It makes compilation a bit faster by improving the linking time, but one of the best reasons to use it is that it encourages loose coupling, which makes your code reusable by default, which is great if you plan on making more games. I hope you are making more games. And also, for distributing a build, instead of having everyone downloading it from a central server when there's a new version available, we use Resilio, which uses torrent technology to deliver to everyone at the same time. So whenever a new build is available, everyone in the office will get the latest version automatically. Very low barrier to get people to play the build. However, having said that, hindsight is 2020. And this was really great when the studio was 40, 50 people in the project. When we got to be more, it's completely saturated our office's network whenever we made a new build. Nothing else was happening. Because, yeah, it uses torrent. Like everyone in the office was getting it super fast, but nothing else could happen. Like people could barely use the internet. So we used Resilio, but then we stopped using it. And then we made so that, okay, we only use Resilio on some computers, like in the offices, in the meeting rooms. So that the meeting rooms always have the newest version of the game. But at any time to sit down, start playing it, it was always the newest version on PCs. Excellent. But then if anyone else wanted the build, we said you have to manually copy it from the NAS server, which works better. So, but if you have a smaller studio and most of you are in the same office, or like it even works over the cloud. So you don't have to, so you will get benefit even if you only have a single server somewhere and then everyone can torrent it. Even though I call it torrent, it is legal, it's just based on the torrent technology. So now to iteration time, because wasted time is wasted money. Short iteration time leads to a better game, but long iteration time can and will frustrate developers. Many teams actually get hit by this one. You spend a lot of time waiting for those last 10% to load. It's actually getting better now. Unreal 5 will actually show you what you're waiting on now, but we didn't used to. At Housemarque, they used to take more than 2 minutes every single time we wanted to launch the editor. So what is it doing? What is it doing? It is loading the startup map, which is another reason to keep direct references in check, because the editor also needs to load these assets. Also, ask yourself, do you really need to start the editor in your startup? For us, most developers start the editor to work on assets or specific submaps. We almost never do work on the actual starting map. We only want to play it when we actually hit the play button. By the way, before I go to the next slide, I was talking to some AAA studios, and because of the reference accounts that I've been mentioning throughout this, their editor, Unreal Engine editor, would take over 20 minutes to open every single time. Imagine that. You start the editor, it takes 20 minutes just to load. You have that kind of workflow, I could understand why a lead programmer would say, we don't ever want the editor to crash on users. Okay, in that case, I would say you have bigger problems that you should fix first, but sure, don't crash that. But if you start not crashing, something weird's gonna happen. You're gonna get null where you didn't expect it. And because that property is now null, something else is gonna ask for that, it's gonna get null again, maybe that's it for that, and then later on it's gonna have a cascading effect. So that way later down the line it's gonna actually crash. And you're gonna have a null reference where you didn't expect it. And you're gonna go, why is that null pointer? And because it crashed so late, it's going to be a nightmare to try to find it, because that's not the cause of it. It was way earlier. It was like 5 minutes ago. But because you just did a null check and then just did nothing in case it was null, you didn't find it. So yeah, it will introduce other kinds of issues. Anyways, for this problem, if you do have a large startup map, here's a little pro tip. You can have a proxy map as the editor startup map. Just an empty map. It's only for editor development. So you just create an empty level through the new asset dialog to keep it truly empty, and then in the level blueprint, you load the actual starting level on begin play. So now the editor starts up super fast because it's literally loading nothing. And then when you click play, then it starts loading it. But the thing is that you don't usually want to load the entire game unless you want to play the entire game. And when you're developing it, you usually don't play the entire game. You go to some sandbox level or to some mini level or something like that. Very few people during development actually want to play the game from start. So do this. Also use your new open level ref function. Wait, that's in the older one I created, I helped people create their own, but now there's a built-in one I mentioned. So yeah, just by doing this simple little thing, and now smart, we managed to cut the editor opening time from over 2 minutes down to 30 seconds. People are opening the editor all the time, so I mentioned all the man hours saved. Oh, I even have a note there. Big game companies takes over half an hour. So lastly, if you do want to open into a very specific map at a particular time without editing the 20 seconds, you can have the editor ignore it and just open the last map you worked on. So just change this setting in the editor preferences, load level at startup to last open. Okay, Visual Assist. It is a plugin for Visual Studio. It's faster and better than a built-in IntelliSense, and it also completes U macros. There's also Rider now, which I heavily recommend. It's awesome, I love it. You'll, with Rider and Visual Assist, you'll also get instant file and simple search. That means any function, class, variable, macro, anything in your game, and the whole engine, you just start typing, it'll just filter instantly. Just start typing player, character, and it's like player, character, over. Also, it has great navigational features, another quality of life improvements. I used to joke that starting to develop with Unreal Engine isn't free, because it's a free editor. It costs you a license of Visual Assist. Although, a little update for this presentation, with with Visual Studio 2022, this is no longer the case. I found Visual Studio 2022 to be adequate for Unreal development. I don't have Visual Assist or Rider installed. I actually just use Visual Studio raw, naked, without any plugins. I press F12 to go to definition. Might take a few seconds, 1, 2, but it goes there. I'm like, alright, if you want to use Unreal Engine with fast-ish code completion without spending any money, Visual Studio 2022. Don't use 2019, it's too slow. One of the biggest slowdowns to iteration time is code compiling, so we should do everything we can to cut that down. You can all read that, right? It's just a joke, never mind. So, and to do that, I have 3 tiers for compilation, starting with the fastest, Live++. It usually only takes a few seconds, depending on your code structure, sometimes less than a second. It is included for free with Unreal Engine 4.22 onward, so there's no reason for you not to use it. I actually, having said that, I used it recently in Unreal Engine 5, and I noticed it's doing some other things now to like make it not crash as often, I guess, and it does take a little bit more time. Sorry about that, it's not super fast. But it's much faster than restarting the editor from scratch. This is a lie. It only used to work for C++, but now it works for everything, headers, U macros, whatever, you can change whatever you want. Yeah, this is a lie. It works now with headers and function signatures. It's a lie. It does now work with U macros. Wow. And then hot reload. It doesn't work anymore. Never mind. And then Visual Studio Compile. And if that doesn't work, you just shut down the editor and you just compile it and launch it again. But you usually should save it until last. Try LiveMod Plus until it doesn't work, and then you can do restarting the editor. Also, compiling C++ code is very slow, but it does use multiple cores very well. So we need to take advantage of that. One option is just throw more hardware at it. You can give each programmer a beefy core CPU, like a Threadripper. It can turn out quite expensive, and you probably also want to do that for anyone who's working with shaders. Adding more to the cost install with Unreal Engine 5.1, we have made shader compilation lazy, meaning that we'll only compile the shaders that you are using and see, not every single shader in the entire project. So you will not see the pop-up compiling 200,000 shaders anymore. Sorry, we killed that meme. There's no other joke. When I made this presentation, COVID hadn't happened yet, so I was going to say much better to use distribution like Incredibuild. But the thing is, people more remote and use Incredibuild, so for them it is actually better to just throw hardware. If they have a Threadripper, I have a 12 core at work, which is good. I recommend for programmers or shader code or anything like that, start with 12 core as a base, and then if you are doing heavy engine development, you can go even more than that, but usually you're not, so 12 core, that's good. I recommend it. You can go up to 16 if you just have a lot of customers, and 32 if you just hate money. So second option is to distribute the compilation. If you have people at the office, or if you have a really fast dedicated internet link to them, like we do between Epic Helsinki and Epic Sweden. So at Housemark, we license the Incredibuild for all coders, shader developers on the project. The best thing about it is that it scales better and better the more people we have in the project. So I often have Incredibuild using over 150 cores in building. And it's also very efficient, as it only uses the idle cores on people's machines, and you can also add more dedicated horsepower to the network by having beefy dedicated build helper server. And this is something that both Housemark and even Epic Games do. We just have a build farm just helping with Incredibuild compilation. It's not free, it still costs money, but it pays for itself multiple times with all the time saved. And there are free alternatives like Fast Build, and I did hear that we got some better support. We have a studio trying to use it, but we don't use it, so we don't have great support for it. So yeah, Incredibuild. Like if you don't have the money but you have the time, you can try to Fast Build. Using Incredibuild at Housemark meant that we could do a complete rebuild of the entire engine, game code, and plugins in less than 10 minutes. And that's rare. You shouldn't need to do a full rebuild of the engine that often anyways. Then we have the right data cache. It's usually a local folder on the computer where Unreal stores the generated versions of your assets. Usually everyone generates their own, but an asset always gets generated the same way by everyone, so you could just use the same folder by setting up a shared folder in your local network, make sure it's fast. So now as soon as it's generated by one developer, it can just be directly done by others. You can also populate it from build machine at night to make sure everything is ready when people come in the morning, especially if you're doing some other automatic generation nightly. Again, a little update, haven't said that. This was when everyone was in the office and had access like 1 gig connection to like a shared drive. Nowadays, a lot of people are working remotely and this doesn't work. We are aware of that at Epic Games. Now I'm using we as Epic Games. We are starting work on something called Cloud DTC, which means that whenever you're done building something, it will go to the cloud instead of to your local thing. And we already have the coalition testing it. It's not ready yet, but if you want, we have the source code available. You can test it. It's on GitHub. What else do you want to say about it? It's probably going to be ready soon, hopefully in 5.2. And if you want to see more about how it works, we have a presentation on it from the last Unreal Fest on our YouTube channel called something like using Unreal in a geo-located, distributed, something like that. Just search for geo-distributed on our YouTube channel and you'll find it. Super exciting stuff. Not ready yet, but usable. So, okay, version control. Oh, I was loving Git. How many of you are using Git? Okay. How many of you are using purpose? Yeah, about a little bit less than that. How many of you are using something else like SVN or something? Or plastic? Okay, 3. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a bit about Git. Some of you are gonna love this. Some of you are gonna hate this. To start with, I love Git. I use it myself. It's distributed with everyone having complete local history of the project. It has cheap and powerful branching, and it's free. Huh. 4 great reasons to use Git. It's really good for some, but for big Unreal projects, well, I noticed someone take a photo. You might want to take another photo later. Let's look at distributed workflow. It's glorious. There's no central server that everyone depends on. There's no single source of truth because everyone who has the repository is just as much of a server as anyone else. People can pull from who they want. Development can be offline for periods of time. And Linus over there, he can quality control his branch, which people trust above other branches. There's no master branch, there's Linus's branch, and then there's Bob's branch. So Git actually got made with this workflow. Linux is being made with this workflow. But this is not how we're doing version controlling game development, is it? In game development, we have a single server, which means that everyone pushes and pulls from this one single server. And what happens if that single server goes down? Well, now, none of the developers can pull the latest and panic starts. And of course, we can't forget about poor Jenkins. With the central server down, we can't make the builds, and the publisher wants to see the newest progress, but the tech team is a little busy at the moment. I guess we're not really using the distributed part in game development, so let's strike that out as a feature. And about that local history, so Unreal assets, they're just big fat binary blobs, right? And we can't have everyone keeping every single revision of all these binary assets on their own drives. That's just insanity. We don't have the funding for that many hard drives, and we don't want the first download of the entire project and its entire history to take days. It's not just practical. Actually, it's like working against us. So yeah, it's not helping us at all. Making things worse. So it's a minus now. It's a reason not to use Git. So to make it usable, we can use plugin like Git's large file storage system. So now we only need to download the current version of the binary assets. Great. But now we're truly central, as there is no other way to get the previous versions of the files, or even the current one, except from that one single server. So, okay, the complete local history, it's useless now, but not in our way. It's not like a reason not to use it. But now we make the distributed part even worse. So I'll just add straight to that. So now, cheap branches though, whoop whoop, right? They are great if you're a programmer only checking in code. But a AAA project is a huge content team working on those Unreal binary assets. And those cannot have merge conflicts. Because then we're throwing away work that could have taken God knows how long. So if you branch content, you'll get troubles. Unless you only do it for code, but the content team is learning. So it's not really a selling point basically, because we're not branching that much. And also, if you want exclusive checkouts, you need to file locking, which LFS now supports. But now you're basically just using Git as SVN, as version. Alright. At least it's free, right? Right? Kinda, he says. Except little rant coming. When a bigger team starts working on Git with its default workflow, your graph starts looking a little bit like this, which makes it impossible to follow, and your history is basically meaningless. Because a third of your commits are merged commits, merging the main branch back into itself, which makes what you committed drown in an ocean of changes your merge brought from everyone else on the team, and then your lead starts screaming about this foxtrot merge is ruining everything. So the team gets a rebase only policy with a custom pre-received hook on the server just plain denying a commit if it didn't do it properly with master as the first parent branch, which confuses everyone who isn't a senior coder, because now everything is upside down as you get a merge conflict, and theirs is ours is theirs, and since you're now rewriting history as if there was never a merge in the first place, you lose history on how the merge was sold in the first place. And God help you if you screwed up, and now you have to go back in time with Ragnarok, which only some select smart people on your team can do right. And all this takes a lot of time and effort. And not only teaching everyone this continuous process, but solving the method can create and telling it to friends. So people are using a difficult to work with source control for none of its benefits, basically using a hammer to screw in a light bulb. I still have to say, I still love Git. I use it a lot for my personal projects, or even like projects where I'm not the only one working with it. But I don't love Git with Unreal Engine Git within teams. And I recommend against it. So Housemarque was actually using a mixture of Git for code and SVN for assets, which has its own problems, so we moved away from it. We did consider the industry standard perm course. Well, it was very expensive, and we're already tight budget, so that's when we found Plastic SEM. So Plastic had a very acceptable price, still not free though. If you need something free, then SVN is also a good choice. Yes, SVN is better than Git for Unreal. It has two different clients with different workflows, the normal one for coders and power users, and Glue1, a simple client, which also allows you to check out specific assets and commit them without having the whole workspace up to date. It handles sub-repositories like a pro. Some of our developers don't even know that we have our repository split into almost a dozen sub-repos. You can branch and merge, and it will all be handled behind the scenes. And my favorite feature is that it has amazing merge support. When you click a merge commit, it will show you what changes came from where from a merge, and separately, which changes happened that didn't. It's very nice for resolution, conflict resolutions. For example, you can merge two different branches into your main branch, and then fix some conflict. And then when you look at the commit in Plastic SEM, it will tell you, these are the files that came from merging in branch A. These were the files, or the changes that came in from merging branch B. And these were the conflicts you solved and how. It's like, wow, I've never seen this in a version control before. Having said that, a little hindsight now update, like, okay, it sounds like I'm recommending it heavily. It worked for us at first, but then we started having growing pains, and we started showing some cracks. The biggest one is, if you're using Plastic SVN as a programmer, or as anyone who isn't using the Glue1 thing, if you want to commit to the main branch, you have to be on the latest. So if you press the commit button and you're not on the latest, it'll say, hey, can't do that, can't commit. You're not on the latest, you have to pull first. And I was like, okay, update, updates, and then you push again, and now it went fine. Unless if someone else pushed something while you were updating, and this is again, you're again not on latest, you're gonna have to press update. You press update again and you push. This might work fine for smaller commits. But can you imagine the pain this is when you're doing a big merge that takes like maybe an hour or something to go and fix all the conflicts? Because you will try to pull and you'll say, you need to update, and you try to update. It's like, you can't update, you're in the middle of a merge. And you're like, cancel merge? Yeah. Update? Yeah. Merge again? Yeah. Spend another hour? Yeah. Hope no one else comments in that whole time? No, it didn't scale at all. So for, let's say, if you are a price-conscious small team, sure, Plastic is fine, but it doesn't work as when you start growing at all. It's just, also, there's not that many tools to play with it. For example, I like using code tools. We have our own code review tool at Epic, which you're welcome to use. It's called Swarm. And then my absolute favorite code review tool is called Fisheye plus Crucible from Atlassian. And I also read that one. And neither of those were Plastic. And also Unreal has Unreal Game Sync that is built with Purpose out of the box to work with Purpose. Doesn't work with Plastic unless you implement that yourself. So also that doesn't work. So a lot of things just don't work. So if you really want to get the nicest Unreal Engine experience, just go with Purpose. Sorry, it's expensive, but It's what we use, so all of our tools are built around it. Automatic versioning with purpose comes out of the box. Unreal Gamesync works out of the box, everything's out of the box. Okay, I've been now going on for quite a while, but oh yeah, they have a built-in code review that didn't work for sub-repositories. We didn't code, all of our code was in a sub-repository, so we shipped Returnal without code reviews. And it hurt my soul so badly because we couldn't do code reviews, we couldn't share the knowledge, we couldn't make people better. We tried it once. Plastic has this thing called Git proxy server, which means that if you want to use Plastic with something that expects Git, it will like create a Git contemporary repository for you. We tried it once, and it wiped out our entire repository, all the history and everything. So we had to restore from a backup. And I asked the IT team, okay, so when are we trying this again? And they said, yeah, we are not trying this again. So we just did not have code reviews during Returnal. I am amazed it's shipped in a runnable state. But yeah, that's mostly it. To summarize, yes, I have lots of gray hairs from my age. It was actually black when I started doing game development, so take from that what you will. If you have the means and manpower to make an engine, great. Otherwise, I recommend you just pick your specialization. Unreal references are powerful, but with great power comes great loading times and memory hogging, so use them correctly. Take less. There's no shame in it. Fail faster and better. Get to know your profiling tools. Use modules when you can. Your code will be better for it. Figure out an easy way to get builds to your team. Iteration time is paramount. Reduce it where you can. Do yourself a favor and get yourself a copy of Visual Assist. Use the 2 tiers of compilation. And get rules, but now with Unreal Engine. Consider more game-friendly tools like Perforce or Plastic if your team is small, or SVN if you just don't want to spend money. And just before ending, I think it's funny. I have like a housemart.com we're hiring, which is actually not a lie. They are hiring. They're hiring like a lead programmer and a bunch of other stuff. And just a reminder, there's this presentation is on Advent Games, even the updated one. You can find me on Twitter. I tweet a lot of, actually I only tweet Unreal Engine stuff. So if you want to be on Twitter but not get any like politics or crap like that, only want pure Unreal Engine into your veins, then just follow me and no one else. What else? I want to do one thing before I stop, because I forgot to do it at the beginning, but I want to get a selfie with all of you. And I want to post it on my Twitter to make all of you famous. And if you don't want to be in the video, just cover your face. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do like a selfie video. I really bad memory, so that now people can say, hey, I was in your presentation. I'm like, which one? I was in your video. Proof then. Also, if someone accuses you of murder, you can use it as a proof that you were here tonight. This is excellent. So I will take a selfie, but first I wanna check this crowd. I wanna see. So like I will do 3, 2, 1, and then I want to hear hi from Tallinn. So let's practice it now, and I want to see like smiles, I want to see waves, and I want everyone to say hi from Tallinn at the same time. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Hi! Okay. There's probably the weirdest in that so far. It started really slow and then it ramped up towards the end. Estonia. We sound a little bit Nordic. A little bit of Norwegian.
We start very slow.
Yes. How about I say, like, I promise you, you can all get a free drink if you do it properly. This is not in the top 3, I was be honest. But let's, okay, so I want to, like, even, like, let's not do and not too many. 3, 2, 1. This is what you do. Keep that mood. Wait, don't lose that mood. Okay, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Awesome, thank you so much. That's it for my presentation. Do we have any questions? Do you have any questions? Just raise your hand. Still there? Oh. Can I give some examples about using Unreal Engine on other operating systems that look like Linux and Mac? I unfortunately don't have experience with them, everyone at Housemarque was using a Windows PC because if you just get all the development with the same, you don't have to worry about like, hey, why isn't it working for everyone? They're like, oh, it's he's using a Mac. Why? Aren't you developing like a game? Sorry. We do have, having said that, no dish on people that want to use other operating systems. We are adding support for Apple Silicon for the Unreal Editor. I keep getting questions from people about it. Yes, we are working on it. We have a dedicated team. From personal experience and also talking to bigger teams, especially AAA, they try to just use Windows. In indie teams, I've seen them use Macs to get their game out, but I can't speak on their behalf, so sorry, I just don't know more. And of course, Unreal builds all these platforms, so I usually recommend just because at Epic Games, all of us are using Unreal Engine Windows, and usually you'll get the most Unreal Engine if you're using it the way Epic Games. So on Windows, it's great, and then we have a team trying to serve the Macs. But because Fortnite runs on everything, it exports to other platforms. So it exports to Mac, Linux, Android, iOS, everything. I hope that answers your question.
Are there any plans to improving usage?
Is there any plans to improve multi-thread development in Unreal Engine? Yes! Yes, there is. We have two new systems in Unreal Engine. The first one is called the task graph, which makes it super easy for code to fire a task, even add dependencies to it. We even added debugging support. So if you're using Unreal Insights for debugging, you add the tasks channels, tracing channel. You can see which thread is doing something. You can click on it and it will show you it's a task. It will start it from this other thread, and then it will show you again when it goes back to the main thread. It's like just a dependency graph visual in the problem. It's amazing, I love it. We are also moving our entire render loop over to this new task system so that everything that is happening now during the render is super multi-threaded. Still, when you're doing gameplay code using new objects or blueprints, that is mostly on the game thread. It is still like that. If you want to do multi-thread stuff, it is still like you take your data, you make a task, put it to the task